Hi guys, my name is Julian and we are going to install a Cardano node today. We are going to make everything from scratch, so we're going to get a server from Google Cloud. Then we are going to make a secure connection to the server via SSH. Then we are going to connect to the server, install the dependencies, and then later on install Cardano node and Cardano CLI. So what we are going to do is we're going to Google Cloud dashboard, click Compute Engine and VM instances. And here we are going to set up a virtual machine. So I have an old one for testing purposes. I will delete it and create a new one. So in the meanwhile, I can start a new one or create a new one. Just for your information, Google offers a 3-month test period where you can rent servers worth 300 euros. So if you just want to play around with servers, running a node, or just to get a feeling about Cardano, this is the perfect occasion for you to play around with it. So I will just name it Relay 2. You can name it just as you want, like block producing or Relay 1 or just Relay. For this testing tutorial, I will just name it Relay 2. You can set a location for the server. Since I'm based in Germany, I will just say, okay, Frankfurt. Here, Cardano is recommending a server of at least 4 GB of memory. So we will try to get one with a bit more memory. So we have 7.5. It should be enough. You need a lot of memory, especially while the building phase. So it's better to have more memory than less. So that's it. One point missing. I prefer using Ubuntu, so I'm going to switch to Ubuntu 2004. And if you are also then using these commands of the tutorial, just make sure to use the correct commands for the appropriate distribution, because other Linux distributions use different commands. So we have chosen Ubuntu and we click OK and double check it again. We have the name of the server, the CPU and memory, Ubuntu, and we can click create. So Google creates this virtual machine within seconds. We will soon see here the external IP, the public IP, which we are going to use soon. To connect to the server, you can already click here SSH connect and you will get an integrated SSH client. So this SSH client is integrated into the Google Cloud platform. If you prefer to use an external SSH client such as PuTTY or the client I'm using, MOBA Extern, you can use the external one. I'm also going to show you how you can connect with the external SSH client to the remote server using SSH keys. So I don't want to play around in this window. So what we are going to do is the following. We are going to open PuTTY or our SSH client. I use Mobile Xterm. It's actually similar to Ubuntu to PuTTY, but you have additionally you can additionally create telnet sessions, FTP. You have a FTP client where you can drag and drop files to the server. You can also make remote desktop connections to Windows servers. If you use Mobile Xterm, you can open the console, and for PuTTY it's the same. You type the command SSH keygen, which will create a pair of keys for you. I just take the default path, so I don't type anything, I just press enter. And since I've created a pair of keys before, I have to override them, so I type yes. You just can also press enter. Enter a passphrase. I'm going to enter a passphrase, and you should as well. And we have to retype the passphrase. So now we have created our private SSH key as well as our public SSH key. So what we are going to do now is we are going to upload the public SSH key to the Google Cloud dashboard. And we are going to, like after we've uploaded the public key to the dashboard, we're going to use the private key to connect with our SSH client to the remote server. So we are going to open this path and get the public key. So I'm gonna move to the directory home, mobile Xterm, SSH, and here we can list the files and see that we have the two files, the two key pairs, the two keys, and we're going to open the public key. Okay, I've tried to open with Nano. If you don't have Nano, you can install it. Otherwise, you can use the default editor, vi id rsa public. So this is the public key. We're going to copy this key and switch to the Google dashboard. So here we see our server and we're going to click on the server. Here we have the possibility to make additional changes to the server, and we're going to search the SSH key field. Important step, we have to click edit so we can modify the parameters. So we are going to enter our public key here, and now we have to do one important thing. Here you will have this parameter which we are going to replace with our Google Mail user, except the part after the @ So in this case I will use no, I think this is the one, and then we can click save. and the public SSH key will be saved at the server side. So now we have saved the public key at the server side, and we're going to save the private key locally. So what we want to do is to close VI, and what I suggest is to save this private key on a USB stick or on another portable device. I don't recommend to leave the file on the server, or not on the server, on your local machine, because it makes it easy for other people to just access your server. So if you don't use your server, if you don't have a running remote session, you can just pull the USB with the private key, and no one can hijack your server. So what we're gonna do now is we are going to open the private key and save this one in a text file. We just pretend saving it on our USB stick. Oh, wrong button. So new text file, and we just use it private key and save the private key in there. So we are going to open PuTTY or our mobile external SSH client, depending on what you're using, and tell the client, hey, we're using this private key, please connect to our server. So that's what we are going to do. So we can close the file and create a session. We right click here and say new session, new SSH session, and we're going to enter our public IP address. To get it, we just switch to our virtual machine, to our dashboard, and copy the public IP. To specify the username, we type the name we've typed at the end of the public key. This is the name of the Gmail address, but without the @ and the suffix. This is and for the moment we just leave port 22, but we recommend as well to change this. We are going to make another tutorial for this, because as a port 22 is the standard port for SSH, and just to prevent externals to attack this port. So we click at advanced settings and give the private key we've created before. So we just select the private key from our imaginary USB token and click OK. So now we should receive a window where we have to type in a password. So if you already come to this point, you did a lot of steps correctly. If you don't, just redo the steps from before, create the public and the private key, make sure that the public key is on the server, on the Google Cloud dashboard. Also make sure that you've typed the correct name, because you have to take your Google mail address, and then make sure that the private key is saved correctly. So we are going to type in the password we've chosen before. Enter. And here we are. We are on the server. So what we are gonna do now is we're going to use the root user for the installation process. So we have to switch to the root user first, because we haven't been provided with the root password. Therefore, we have to create a password for the root user. So we are going to type passwd and the user, which is root, and now we get a okay, does not exist. Okay, let's check it again. Okay, that's correct. You just type sudo passwd root. I made a mistake to just type a passwd root. Okay, you can choose a password. I'm gonna write it down, just that, although it's just a tutorial, I will write it down for just in case I have to connect later again. So F interior. Okay, we've updated the password, and now we're going to switch the user to root. So we're going to type switch user root, and he's going to ask us the password, and we type it in again. So now I'm gonna clear the window, and we can start with the installation process. Just to review the steps we did is we created a virtual machine. Since we didn't want to work in the SSH, in the integrated SSH client of the dashboard, we created a pair of SSH keys to access the server remotely with our SSH client. You can use PuTTY. I've used MobaXterm. I recommend using MobaXterm because you have more tools to use, such as FTP client. We've saved the public key on the server, and we've saved the private key on a USB token. Now we've connected, and we can start with the installation.